Hi and welcome to another gaming video, and today's video is something a little different. Today I'm going to be talking about games that have been made into movies, and I'm going to be talking about the movies themselves, and there are quite a lot of them. This video has sort of come around because we've just had the release of the much talked about new Mario movie, as well as the Tetris biopic. I like movies that are made from games because I like to play the games, and then I like to see how they can sort of turn them into films. And there are quite a lot of them. Didn't realise quite how many there were. And I'm going to talk through, I would say, the majority of them. I'm sure there's some that I've missed. So let's get started. And I will be putting some dates up on the screen as I'm talking about them, so you can see when these films were released. So let's kick it off with the original Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, I think this was released around in the 90s. It featured Bob Hoskins, and I really liked it. I thought it was a bit strange, but it was a good film. I really liked it. It was slightly different, and I don't think they used any sort of CGI. All of the characters in it were puppets, and the storyline was a bit weird. And I think it was probably the first time I'd seen a game turned into a movie, so I think that's why it stuck with me quite so well. But yeah, it's a good film, and if you're a Nintendo or a Mario fan, you'll like it. Let's have a look at Mortal Kombat. Now, there was a Mortal Kombat film in the 90s with a sequel called Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I haven't seen Mortal Kombat Annihilation, but I have seen the first one, which I thought was pretty decent. And then you've got the newer one, which I think was about 2021. Really good film. I really like that a lot. I've watched that a couple of times and thought that was a great sort of game to film adaptation. Really brought in a lot of the elements. While we're on the subject of sort of fighting games, you've got the Dead or Alive film, which I think has Holly Valance in it. There again, I like that, but I'm a huge fan of the Dead or Alive series, and I thought that was a pretty decent film. Then we come to the Street Fighter film, which I know it features Kylie Minogue. Haven't seen all of it, I've seen bits of it, but what I have seen of it, it didn't look great, which is a shame because I'm a bit of a Street Fighter fan as well. If we then move on to House of the Dead. Now, there are two House of the Dead films, and I thought they were pretty good. Pretty much what you expect from a rail shooting kind of game. It's a film, you go around shooting zombies. Yeah, what else is there to go wrong with it? It was very true to the game, and I thought both of the films, House of the Dead and House of the Dead 2, were good. They didn't take themselves too seriously, but they were fantastic films if you were a big fan of House of the Dead, and I'm a big fan of Sega franchised games, so I was very pleased to see that. So if we're talking about shooting games that have been turned into films, you have to talk about Doom. You had Doom, which I think had The Rock in it, possibly. I think so. And then you had the sequel, which was Doom Annihilation, which nobody seemed to know about. And out of the two, Doom Annihilation was fantastic. It was so much better than the first one. The first one was pretty good, particularly like the really end sequence, which just went into, well, you playing Doom. That was pretty good. But Doom Annihilation was better than the first one. So now we'll move on to two game film series that I've not seen any of. So you've got the Resident Evil, and there are 6 Resident Evil films plus a new one on the reboot, which I've never seen. Don't know why. I'm not a huge fan of Resident Evil, but I've played some of them. I've just not ever seen any of the films. And then you've also got the Tomb Raider series. So the first 2 featured Angelina Jolie, and then there was a new rebooted film which I haven't seen either. So you've got Resident Evil, so there's 7 Resident Evil films and 3 Tomb Raider films, which I haven't seen. I mean, I've seen trailers for and little snippets of, but not actually sat down and watched any of these films. And I don't know why. I think that's something I need to change. If we're going along that kind of horror style game, like Resident Evil, then you can take a look at the Silent Hill films. Now, I've seen Silent Hill, but I haven't seen the sequel, which is Silent Hill Revelation. I thought the first one was absolutely fantastic. It's probably one of the best game movies I've ever seen. And if you didn't know it was a game, you would just think it was a standard sort of horror film. Really fantastic. Even if you haven't played the games, it is well worth the watch. And then we moved on to the Uncharted film, and I've played snippets of the Uncharted games. My daughter is a huge fan of the Uncharted series, so it was quite interesting when an Uncharted film came out as to what it would be like. And if I'm totally honest, I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was very slow and a bit drawn out, and it just felt a bit too like an Indiana Jones film. But my daughter said it was pretty good and quite true to the series itself, but it really wasn't my cup of tea. Then you got to move on to the Sonic films. Now, I am a massive Sega fan and a massive Sonic fan, so I was very, very excited to hear that there'd be a Sonic film coming out. The first Sonic, absolutely fantastic. It just encompassed everything that you'd find in a Sega game, and it had that fun cheekiness to it as well. With Jim Carrey playing Dr. Robotnik, it was just a perfect role. Sonic 2, which introduced Tails, yet again a fantastic film, and both of them are just superb and so true to the whole Sonic feel and kind of universe to it. So, two fantastic games that have been turned into films. Then you have, now this is an odd one because most of the games that get turned into films are either platformers or fighters or sort of horror games. And then you've got the Need for Speed film, which is the only racing game I know that's been turned into a film, and I haven't seen it. From what I've read about it, it's not the best film, but how do you take a game where it's got pretty much no storyline, it's a racing game, so it's start, stop, and turn it into a film and have it be any different to something like Fast and the Furious? So Need for Speed, it's a film about racing, and that is really all you can really say about it. If you've seen it, then let me know what you think of it. And the last one on my list is not actually based around one single game. I'm talking about Pixels. It's a film about quite a few different games, sort of 80s games, I think, and you've got Galaga in there, or Galaxian in there, Pac-Man is in there. It's featuring Adam Sandler. I don't rate him, I'm not a big fan of Adam Sandler, but I did like the film, I did like him in this film, and Pixels is one of those films that you can rewatch, and it is really superb. So that just about sums up all of the games that have been turned into movies. And the last one on my list is not a game that's been turned into a film, but it's a game that's been turned into a series, and I'm talking all about The Last of Us. Big fan of the first Last of Us, not played the second one because it's on PlayStation 4 and don't own that, but I did have The Last of Us on my PS3. Very, very excited to see a TV series about it, and it was superb. Something like 9 episodes, I think, 8 or 9 episodes. And my daughter also is a big fan of The Last of Us because they're made by the same developer, Naughty Dog, as Uncharted, so she went on to that, and she said that, you know, you've got Uncharted and then you've got The Last of Us, which is like a more scary version of the Uncharted series. So I thought The Last of Us was superb. It was one of those games that just blows you away, especially on the PS3. The graphics and the storyline and the cutscenes were amazing, and they brought those into the series. The series, I thought, was very true to the game, as did she. So that is my roundup of games that have been turned into movies, which ones I've seen, which ones I liked, and for the majority of them, I really did like them. I think the highlights out of there would be Sonic and Sonic 2, Doom Annihilation, and Silent Hill. Those are my highly recommended game movies. As I've said, I've not seen any of the Resident Evil movies or any of the Tomb Raider movies, but I need to rectify that and go and watch them, although I wasn't ever a fan of Tomb Raider games. So if there are any on this list or any not on this list, let me know. Link, like, subscribe, enjoy. So whilst putting the final touches to this game movies video, I came across a lot more games that had been turned into movies, either ones that I'd forgotten about or ones that I didn't even know about. So I'm going to mention these here. Some of these I've seen, most of them I haven't. So you've got Tekken, Alone in the Dark, Detective Pikachu, Warcraft, Assassin's Creed, Rampage, Angry Birds the movie and Angry Birds 2, Max Payne, Hitman, Wing Commander, Far Cry, and Monster Hunter. Those are some additional titles of games that have been turned into movies. And like I said, I've seen the Angry Birds movies. I didn't even realise there was a Tekken movie. I'd heard of Assassin's Creed, but I've not even seen it. So that's just an additional list of movies that have been made from games. And as you can see, the list is huge. And if you look on somewhere, I don't know, like Wikipedia or IMDb, there is a list of forthcoming movies that have been made from games. I didn't really want to touch on games that or movies that hadn't been made yet because they quite often just get cancelled. But I did see a lot of interesting titles in there. There's supposed to be a Streets of Rage film coming out, a Minecraft film, and the list is huge. But like I said, a lot of these titles just never end up being produced. They're ideas. I like with the Minecraft film, that's been bandied around for quite some time, but it does look like possibly in a year or two you're going to get a Minecraft film. How that was going to work, I have no idea. But there you go. That is a little extra on the end of this video for some forgotten titles of, like I said, games I didn't even know about or games that I'd forgotten about. And if I'd forgotten about them, were they that good? Actually, the Angry Bird films were pretty decent, but they're loosely based. It's more character based than story. So there you go. Link, like, subscribe, enjoy.